Page 139 of The Unfolding is the story of Karen Horne.
I felt fake. I felt like I had to perform. When my husband would be up in front every Sunday, it just gave me another little notch in my anger or my bitterness. I was a mess.
God's story has been unfolding
since the beginning of time.
He invites you to be a part of it.
Another page in The Unfolding.
Hi, this is Meredith Foster. Karen Horne got really good at what she refers to as pretend normal. Her husband was living a lie, and she was pretending everything was fine. When you're married to a pastor, there is intense pressure to appear as if all is well. But in their marriage, it was anything but well. Betrayal, deceit, and hidden sin had eaten away at the foundation of their family. In order to uncover the truth, Karen would have to go to lengths she never could have imagined. Today's episode includes references to pornography and sexual addiction. The content may not be appropriate for younger listeners.
I never envisioned myself marrying a pastor. I grew up, in a very large church, so I thought that was going to be I thought that's how I was going to have it, a large congregation, and I love my pastor's wife. So I envisioned everybody loving me and being in this big church and everything, and it was nothing like that. But I also had, we pastored some small congregations, and we moved a lot, probably 15 different times in our marriage. We've been married now 36 years. I think when you get married, at least for me, I thought I was marrying my Prince Charming. Really, I think I had expectations upon my husband that you shouldn't have. I placed him probably above Jesus, meaning I thought he was just going to be my rescuer, my healer, my everything. And so all of my imperfections or baggage that you bring into a marriage, I thought he would fix it all.
What was marriage like? I mean, you came into it with those sort of ideas. Were there kids in addition to all the moving around?
So yes, we have 3 beautiful kids, 2 grandbabies now. Marriage was a little rocky. My husband had a temper and had some anger issues. And I wasn't ready for that. I did not grow up in a household with anger. I didn't know how to handle it. In fact, I would flee. So if we would get into a fight, I would flee. I didn't know how to handle it, nor did I know how to stand up for myself or have healthy boundaries. Oh my goodness. That was never a part of our marriage. And so it was not the best for a long time. I really expected that my husband, being a pastor, he was going to pray over me and lead me and draw me closer to Jesus. And it wasn't like that at all. So I had these expectations, I think, that I placed on him to be that role model, But so it was quite rocky. And I would say probably for most of our marriage, I prayed and desired a more godly marriage. And probably instead of really leaning on what I needed to do to be closer to God, I blamed my husband. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the marriage was not perfect. Yeah.
What was a typical, did you fight frequently, or what was a typical exchange for you during that season?
So yeah, we would fight often, but as long as I just kind of stayed cool and calm, we didn't have fights. So I also started some very bad habits of some codependency. I also did pretend normal very well. When we were at church, I would pretend like we had this amazing, beautiful, healthy, fun, normal marriage. So I got very good at that.
Did you ever imagine divorcing or anything like that?
No. None of my grandparents were divorced. My parents weren't. No, divorce was really I want to say it wasn't an option, but I think with his anger, I started more and more. I began to throw it up to him a lot. And I know now it was my frustration of him not being perfect and me wanting him to be perfect, as opposed to looking at my own faults and taking responsibility for my own issues. But I did start to throw it up to him when we would have fights. And that was very painful for him. And I think I probably did that because it was my only way to get back to him. You know, it's kind of, you do this dance.
Yep.
And the dance is not beautiful like we want it to be. It's awkward and it's a battle. I mean, you just go back and forth and you do this dance until you realize you have no control and the floor just drops out underneath you and causes you to really draw near to Jesus and get real.
And that happened. So do you want to describe that experience?
Yes. Let's see. So I have 3 children, beautiful children that all love the Lord, 2 boys and 1 daughter. And my youngest is turning 29. But when he was turning 2, we had a huge fight. And I won't get into all the details because I don't believe it's that important. But we had a huge fight. We separated for a while. And at this point, my husband was pastoring. He was at a very large church in Florida. And it was during that separation. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but my husband had an affair. So when we separated, that's when he started the affair. I did not know it at the time. We started going to counseling again, which we've probably been to 10 to 12 different counselors throughout our marriage. So my husband gets another church. So we move again and we decide, okay, we're going to come back together. We're going to make a go of this marriage and everything's going to be good. And I thought things were great. We move in. I'm so excited for this new house, this new move, this new chance for us to make a new start, and things are not good. I start discovering he's leaving a lot, and I didn't know what was going on. Anger, fighting a lot. On my oldest son's birthday, my husband asked for the divorce. Now, he's never said anything about divorce. It was always me throwing it up to him. I didn't want it, but it was like my defense. And I fell to the floor. I begged him, don't do this, because I knew by him asking and saying it, I knew he meant it. So I packed up with the kids and I went to Oklahoma, which is where I'm from. I went to see my mom and dad, and I took all 3 kids, and it was a really hard time. During that time, I think the absence of us caused my husband to really think about what was going on. Now, again, I didn't know all this, but he ended the affair, told me he wanted us to come back home and wanted us to really be a family. I come back home. This is in March of 1996. A few months later, he goes to a Promise Keepers men's conference. He comes home from the Promise Keepers and he confesses everything to me.
Oh, wow.
So it was gut-wrenching. Now, the other thing about my personality, and when you go through counseling and the older we get, the more you learn about yourself, I know now I am an extremely forgiving person. So maybe that's merciful. Maybe it's a gift of mercy, but immediately he's sobbing and crying. And I'm comforting him, saying, it's okay, I forgive you. So I immediately, without even thinking about the consequences and what this is doing to my heart, began to forgive him. It's not until a few weeks, later that I began to have this anger and rage. And honestly, I'm not an easily angered person. I didn't know what to do with it. I've never felt this way. And the anger and the rage was so destructive and so uncontrollable. I began to seek another counselor. We went to a counselor together, and this counselor said, okay, you've confessed it, you've dealt with it, wash your hands, you're all done. Everything's good. And I was like, no, I'm not good. I'm not good. So I had my own counselor. And again, I just didn't know how to handle it. And a counselor just wasn't helping me. I think now there are so many counselors that know how to handle betrayal. Again, I felt like I was alone on my own dealing with this.
Were you sharing that with anybody else? Did anybody outside of your counselors know what was going on?
No.
Oh, wow. So all this time he's pastoring. So there's this pressure to continue to appear to be in this amazing marriage when in reality, you're devastated.
Yes. Yes.
What did that feel like to walk through that?
I felt fake. I felt like I had to perform. And again, I got very good at pretend normal, but it was the hardest thing to do. I was a mess. And I sought my physical my doctor to maybe try to get on some antidepressants. And they were like, no, you don't need them. I didn't know what to do. Yeah. I really didn't. There just wasn't a lot of resources at that time, books. People just didn't talk about it. I was so angry and bitter. And honestly, it's by the grace of God, my marriage is still together, because I would throw it up to my husband probably for 5 years. And it was probably another 9 years from the affair, 9 years after, that I did a Bible study and I started to realize I didn't know what forgiveness was. And I would throw it up to my husband and I would say all the time, like if we had a little argument, you owe me. I was not a nice wife. Yeah. And I felt like Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, I guess, because I felt like I'd go to church and I would say hi, and I was in charge of women's ministry or doing the children's ministry, but I would resent. And I will tell you this, when my husband would be up in front of everyone speaking and everyone thought he was just the greatest thing, I resented it. And I think every Sunday, it just gave me another little notch in my anger or my bitterness. I was like, if they only knew. I mean, it bothered me that I was in so much pain and people loved him.
Yeah. What was your relationship with God like as you walked through that? Did any of that resentment you felt toward your husband, was any of that directed toward God?
Absolutely. And I was very angry with God. God, I prayed for a godly man, a godly marriage. I wanted nothing else but to have an amazing ministry to bring glory to God. And I just was like, God, why? And I always said, God, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to cause this? So yes, I was very angry with God for a long time. And, Christian music started really changing in the 90s. The more I listened to worship music, honestly, that was my lifesaver until I started doing some Bible studies, because there weren't a lot of books. My counseling wasn't great. I didn't want to hear whatever my husband said at church, Mm-hmm. And my quiet time, I had 3 littles, I had children, and there's not a lot of alone time. So I will say that Christian music probably became something that started turning my heart towards him. Yeah, I was very angry with God, even questioned, my faith, like, God, I didn't realize my faith was so weak until just a few years ago. I had never been shaken quite like that.
So let's fast forward a bit. You had done that Bible study. You'd kind of walked through forgiveness. What was your marriage like right before this kind of blew up?
In 2004, we moved back to Florida from Oklahoma. So one of the big moves. And I was angry again, really angry. The moving created a lot of problems for me. I hated moving. So, we moved from Oklahoma, which we had only lived there for 4.5 years. And finally, I was close back to my mom and dad, and I loved being close to them. And I got to the point where I'm just like, I'm not doing it again and again and again. I want to stay. So I was quite resentful with that move. But that's when I do this Bible study. I realize how little my faith was, how weak my forgiveness was. That's when I started to grow spiritually. And that's when my heart started to change. Again, we're doing another church plant. And again, it is stressful, but God starts to change my heart through all of that. And that's when all of this began. My father-in-law was diagnosed with cancer in the fall of 2005 and has about 6 months to live. But I believe he only lived for about 3 months. Now, again, unbeknownst to me, that's when my husband started acting out. His dad passes away and my husband gets extremely angry. So here we are, we're church planting a new church. After his father passes away, my mother-in-law has a stroke. 6 months we're dealing with, and we almost lose her. So we're dealing with her getting better. Finally, 6 months after she's starting to heal and do well, a month after that, my father suffers a stroke and he goes into a coma. I am flying back to Oklahoma to help my mother and my sister. My kids, the two oldest were doing okay. I was homeschooling my daughter at the time because she's a gymnast. So many changes. My oldest son says, I want to go to a different school. So he quits to go to a private school. My daughter falls doing gymnastics. She was in an upper level. She was a level 8, almost a level 9. And she split the beam several times. And the coach said, get up and do it again without, they just don't blink their eye. And she said, I quit. And she walked out of the gym. So my oldest son quits his school. My daughter quits gymnastics. And I mean, this was a big ordeal. My youngest son, when I was at home, he would turn his homework in and he had good grades. When I'm away in Oklahoma, failing, and I just didn't have the support. My daddy, after 6 months of being in a coma, passes away March of 2007. A few weeks later, there's some issues that happen at a church camp with my younger son. Then my husband, a week later, gets arrested for soliciting a prostitute. So you got to understand, my whole life for a few years was chaos. After my husband got arrested, his anger level was through the roof. I've never seen him like this, and just in a rage at times.
Were you stunned by the soliciting of the prostitute? Did you have any idea that was going on?
No, none. In fact, the day that it happened, I'll never forget. We had a phone conversation. He was traveling for his job. He said, I love you. You're beautiful. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Just sweet conversation. No idea that all this had been going on. That's where it is such a, I don't even know how to describe it. Honestly, like just a blow, that total tsunami that hits you. That day we have that conversation. That evening, he's supposed to pick up my older son. He played in a praise band at the church. Ben calls me and goes, Mom, Dad's not here. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Have you called him? He goes, yeah, like 50 times, not answering. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not like him. I call, can't get a hold of him. I call because he's in the same town as his mom and brother and everybody. I call them. Have you heard from him? No. Well, then we get a phone call later from my brother-in-law. And he just said, I've got your husband. He'll come home tomorrow. Something like that. Didn't tell me anything. So the next day, I'm homeroom mom for all 3 of my kids at their school. And I'm getting snacks because it's like pie day or something like that. And I'll never forget it because I was in the grocery store and I get a call from my husband, and he said, I got arrested. And I just it just sucks the air out of your chest. Like you just gasp. He made up this story, said I was helping a lady that was in need. And he said, she told me she had a son that was sick and could I help? So I went into her hotel room, and then she started asking me questions, and then the police came out And he goes, I kept saying, no, no. And the police came out and arrested me. Now, the minute he's told me this story, and I've never had this before in my life, I knew without a shadow of a doubt my husband was lying. I just said, you're lying. And he kept going, no, no, this is the truth. No, no, I promise you. And I just said, I know you're lying. So that was the first like kind of Holy Spirit check in my spirit that throughout my life, I don't think I've just been in tune with listening, which is another learning thing that I've learned through all of this, listening to the Holy Spirit. So he came home. We had had so much going on with this church camp with my son and my dad dying. I lost my best friend. My dad, but next to my husband, was always my best friend. He was the one for everything. I just was like, I can't deal with you. I can't deal with this. He kept saying, no, I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. And I kept hearing inside of me, it's not the truth, but didn't know how to deal with it. So again, pretend normal. My son needed me. I was grieving. I just kind of put it on the back burner, I guess, to say. I told him, I said, you just need to go find some place to live because I can't deal with this right now. That didn't last long because of my codependency, my need for love. I didn't want to be separated. So, I asked him to come back home. Again, we went to counseling. I said, you've got to do all of these things or we're not going to stay married. I tried to put some boundaries down. And at that point, he was asked to be on a leave from the church. So he had to get another job. During this time, when he came back, I didn't realize all of the anger that was going on, this explosive anger within him. I also started to have some panic attacks at this time where I would go to sleep and I would wake up and feel like someone was choking me. I would walk around and I would quote scripture and I would go through all the Bible verses I could about, not being afraid and that God was with me. I felt like my house was under some demonic attack. It was so overwhelming. And I know now, obviously, yes, we were under major attack, but my husband was bringing in to our home things that would never have been welcomed there before. Now, it might sound a little crazy, but I went around and started praying over every window and door that the enemy was not welcome. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I still had no idea that my husband was bringing things into the home, but I was in a battle. So this is really when I knew I was starting my battle, but I still had no idea what he was doing. So that's like 2007. He takes a break from the ministry for a couple of years. A couple of times I found pornography on a computer. I was like, okay, it was my husband's computer. And I said, I'm not going through this again. The affair, you getting arrested, whether you're telling me the truth or not, and now this, I'm not doing it. And I did put some ultimatums down. I said, if I so much as see you flirt with a girl, look at a girl, if I hear anything, I'm gone, I'm done. I can't do this over and over and over and over. It felt like another affair. So it is as intrusive, as painful, as devastating, gut-wrenching. So I don't, disregard anything. Any betrayal is betrayal. I put these ultimatums down. Well, then I think our marriage is going pretty good. I still know he doesn't desire me like I want him to. He doesn't, but I'm thinking things are pretty good. We even did a marriage Bible study at our house for some of our neighbors, and they started coming to our church. So we're doing ministry. Oh, and again, he's back preaching. And I just thought things were pretty good. I still knew deep down inside, he doesn't desire me like I want. And I kept thinking, God, is that just a flaw in me that I need to be loved, So I have this battle still within myself.
Tell me about the day when you found out that things were not going as smoothly as you thought.
I had had 2 rotator cuff surgeries, and my mother came to visit to help drive me to PT and doctor's appointments and all. That day was January 14th, 2017. I thought it was just like a normal day. It was a Saturday night. Most Saturdays he would go to bed early so he could get up at like 4 a.m. and go over his sermon and everything, or, get up early. So he's still bivocational at this point. So he had worked his other job and then still doing pastoring, and it's a very small congregation. So he goes to bed early. My mama and I, we watch the news. So the chair I'm sleeping in because of my shoulders is a huge easy chair. It's my husband's easy chair. I have all these pillows all around me, and so it's quite an ordeal to get in it. My mother helps me get situated. She goes to bed. It wasn't until about like 30 minutes later, I go, oh, I forgot my mouth guard. Now, again, I really believe it's this little tug from the Holy Spirit, because I probably could have slept without it, but I thought, okay, I can do this. I can get out of this huge chair, all these pillows. I can get them back in and get back settled again. I got it. I go into our bedroom, and he's sleeping, and all his commentaries are next to him on the bed, and he left the lamp on. He even had his glasses on, and I thought, oh, my sweet, sweet husband who works 2 jobs, just studying. And I go into the bathroom, I get my mouth guard, and as I come out, his phone, which is on the nightstand, lights up. And I look at it and I'm like, who's texting at like 11:30, midnight, something like that? And I look at it, and it's from a woman. It's not a name I know. In that instant, I knew something was wrong. It was a stabbing, a deep, piercing pain. Now, I know that pain from many years before when he told me he was having an affair. This pain was that and so much more. There was something about it, and my heart is like pounding out of my chest. It's racing. My thoughts are racing. I am just like going through the day, going like, who is this? How did this happen? I couldn't even slow my thoughts down. I look back over at him. I'm just like, who is this man? At this point, I'd been married 30 years. I don't even know what's going on within myself. I turn the lamp off and I go out of the room. And of course, I didn't sleep all night. During church, when he gets up on the pulpit to preach, I exit and I go into his office because I knew he left his phone on his desk. I'm not super smart on being sneaky, but that's when I started to kind of like try to snoop. I sent this woman a text message back as if it is my husband, and she didn't reply back. I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't she reply like right away, So then I had to delete the message. I didn't think anything then because I'm like, I'm thinking an affair. All day long, I'm just beginning to like, what do I do? What do I do? Now, I know in the past, I've always confronted him and he's lied to me. So I'm thinking, I'm not confronting him this time. This time, I'm going to find out the truth.
Karen was about to do things she had never dreamed, going undercover to find out the truth, no matter how painful that might be.
That's my whole beginning of my playing detective. Yeah, and so I did a lot of really crazy things in the next few weeks. A lot of lying, which I'm not very good at lying. That's when I began to play detective. I believe it was my sister's brilliant idea that she said, okay, I think you need to lie to him and tell him you're going to go out of town and then follow him. So within that 6 weeks before I went out of town, because that was the very last week, I am doing everything I can to spy on him. And I did some things that were not legal, I'm not proud to say, but I found out how to track him through his phone. I put something on his computer that he was unaware of, which is not legal, where I could see every text message, every website, anything to do with his phone, what he was doing. I had planned this fake trip to go out of town. As he was dropping me off at the airport, I watched his car drive off, and I pulled my suitcase across and got into a rental car, and I followed him. I did crazy things. I had a camera with me. I had my phone, so I'm trying to track him by the phone. Now, I had also sought a spy person. So I finally got a device where I could put it underneath his car and I could track where his car went. So I tracked his phone. I tracked what he was looking at, who he was texting, calling. I even, like our bank statements, I could look at when he was pulling money out, where, what towns, everything. And then, so now I track the car. Finally, my best friend said, okay, my husband's going out of town. I'll help you. Fast forward, my husband's at his job and there is a place that sells wigs, just like hop, skip, and a jump away, just super close. So she sat in the car so she could watch him to see if he was going to leave. I went in, I got a wig, I got scarves, I got different sunglasses. I did all kinds of things for disguises because we were going to be like, this is it. We're going to find out what's going on. And she's going to take pictures and help me as I'm driving and stuff. So I did some really crazy things. The very first night I was staying in a hotel real close to where we live. I put all black on and got into our neighborhood and I crawled under the car to put that tracking device underneath the car. I didn't realize it at the time, but you have to constantly replace the battery. So every few days, the battery dies. It was crazy.
It sounds crazy.
It was. And I felt crazy. I really felt crazy because I'm talking to him. I might be trailing him and he calls me and I'm like, oh, I'm having so much fun in Oklahoma. And here I am following him. I'm just like, so long story, very, very short. It's like towards the end of the week and I still haven't got all the proof. And I'm like, God, I need to know. Now, as if everything that I've been printing off wasn't enough, I wanted to see with my own eyes. I wish now I hadn't, but I felt like at the time I needed to see with my own eyes. And I am crying out to God for him to let me see it. And that last day, he calls me and says, oh, my back hurts. I'm going to stay at home tonight. And so I'm going to call it an early evening. And I love you. And I said, okay. So again, silly me, I'm tracking him. I think he's serious. So we go to a store to go shopping, my friend and I. Well, no, he was getting in the car and hightailing it to somewhere. So we run out of the store and we start following him. Traffic is horrible because it's like 5 or 6 o'clock traffic, horrible. And I am white knuckling. My heart is racing. I'm like, this is it. This is it. It was crazy. And my friend thought I was going to kill us because I was driving so crazy and frantically. Lo and behold, I finally see him pull into a motel and we take pictures and I fall apart. Literally. I got out of the car and I just fell to the ground. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. So she picked me up, got me back in the car. She drove us home. What I had discovered was that my husband had been visiting prostitutes from when his father passed away and became addicted to pornography. It had been going on for around 11 plus years, tens of thousands of dollars spent, hundreds of women. It's still, there's times I can't wrap my mind around, how did I never know that? How did I, learning to forgive myself was also another thing that I really learned, because I felt stupid. I felt naive. And when the Holy Spirit told me that he was lying, I didn't press into that. And I did fail to say that I started self-medicating throughout this time, and especially this last week. I mean, it was like all I could do to just, I felt like I just couldn't function. It was like 24/7. I was printing things out, looking at where he's at, looking at what he's doing, just trying to make sense of it all. The very next day, that Friday morning, went in with an attorney and filed for divorce, which again, I couldn't even hardly write my name. I just didn't want to do this. I love my husband. I wanted my marriage. Even through all this, I loved him. And the crazy thing is, too, I met the attorney and my husband is a mile away from me when I'm signing the papers. He thinks I'm in the air flying home from my week getaway. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to stay the weekend with my best friend. And then I'll come home. And he's like, great, see you when you get home. So it wasn't until that Sunday that I went home, had to act like everything was normal. And I was anything but normal. I felt like I needed to probably be locked up someplace. I just was a mess. I probably put on the best show of my life for him. I was anything but normal and healthy. And that next morning, I was in bed. I was so numb. He came over and gave me a kiss goodbye. And I seriously thought that was the last time I would ever kiss him. He left. I jumped up out of bed, packed up what I thought was important. And for 6 weeks, I had been gathering like vital information. So I had things in files that I needed, if he was going to fight me for a divorce, I had things I needed. And I got things that I thought were my most valuable possessions, put them in a couple of suitcases. And I left him a note that said, I know I have proof. And here's my attorney's phone number. And I had his wedding ring there. And I put it on there because he never wore it. He comes home to the note, starts frantically trying to find me. And I had blocked him from my phone. I was using cash. I had got a new credit card with my name only on it. So he wouldn't see it. So he had no idea where I was, couldn't contact me, didn't know how to contact me because I just knew he would try to lie his way out of it. Then I started telling our children, which I wish I could do things differently. When I share my story with people, I say, keep your children from knowing as much as you can. The pain is so devastating for them. It's too late to change it. I can't go back. But I really thought, okay, I'm divorcing him. They need to hear it from me. Why? My son, Benjamin, was living in Jordan in the Middle East. He said, I'm coming home. So a few weeks go by and my husband decided he would rent from one of our neighbors. So just down the street, they had a little apartment. And so he rented that and said, I'll let you move back in until we get this settled and separate everything. And I was like, okay, that's great. So I moved back in. Benjamin comes home. My oldest son is very type A and I love him. He's relentless on mom. You don't need to divorce yet. You need to wait. You need to see what God's going to do. You need to do this. I want to order you some books. I want you to get some counseling. I want you to, he was like, I had already started counseling because our denomination had paid for me to see a counselor and everything. So I had started counseling, but I was still set on the divorce. And I thought, you know what, Ben, if I see a change with your dad, I'll know it and we can redate and get remarried. This was what my mind was. And he was like, no, Mom, just wait. You need to just hear from God. You need to, he was and he would not stop. Now, he was going to my husband and going, you jerk, get your life together. And he was seriously questioning even if my husband knew the Lord. And he was going back between us, trying to get us, in our right mind. And it affected all three of my children completely different. My daughter stopped talking to my husband and basically pretty much wanted him to die and wanted nothing to do with him. My younger son had also gone through some severe things, PTSD in the Army. So we were dealing with all of that in the middle of all of this. And he just got angry with my husband, but again, didn't really know what to do. So friends and family were giving me advice to divorce him, leave him. You've had enough. I heard that so many times, even the counselor I was going to. But it was when they loaded up the moving truck. I said goodbye to Rachel and her husband. My oldest son flew back to Jordan, and my younger son went back to where he was living before. And that's when the house was completely empty. And it was like, Meredith, God had to remove every distraction from me because I think my brain was so distracted on so much, and he needed to get all of my attention. But it was that aloneness. I can't even describe it to you. You sit in an empty house with nothing on the walls, no furniture, and you start to play memories back of Christmases, birthday parties. Your husband walking through the door and you kissing him to, just everything. And I just was devastated. I was alone. It was there that God really reached in and said, wait and see. I'm in control. You're not. I'm the one that is orchestrating and going to heal and do miracles in your life, with or without your husband. When the kids, the next day when they left, it was like 10 o'clock and I thought, okay, I need a drink. I looked at the clock and it was like 10 o'clock and I was like, oh my goodness, I got a problem. And I poured everything out. I got the books out that my son had ordered. I got on my knees and just cried out to God, and he met me. I began reading everything I could. I did seek a new counselor that specialized in betrayal and PTSD. Oh my gosh, and I did every form of therapy that you could do for PTSD. Everything. And God began to heal my heart. I began to thank God for the pain. He says to thank him for all circumstances, for everything. To this day, it's still very painful. So God began to get a hold of me. There was a family in our church that said, why don't you come live with us? Because at that point, I had decided I want to wait and see what God is going to do, because that's what he's telling me overwhelmingly. Every devotional, every book that I was reading, everything I listened to, it seemed like every song on the radio, everything was telling me to wait and see. So I put the divorce on hold. I said, I'll wait and see. I wrote a letter to all my friends and family and said, please don't give me any advice. I just need to hear from God. So I moved in June 1st with this family. A month later, Robert moves in with them in another room, just so we could save money and spend money on counseling and doing anything and everything that we could do. In August, we did something called Soul Care. Phenomenal. I joined a national women's ministry called Avenue support group. Phenomenal. I cannot tell you, and I'm still friends with some of these ladies that walked through this journey with me, cried with me, prayed over me. Then in October, we went to an intensive marriage. It's called Emergency Marital Situations with Affair Recovery. And again, life-changing, life-rescuing.
Was there a point along that way where you felt like a light came on or it turned a corner? When was the point where you were, became less waiting and began to build a confidence that maybe you were going to survive this?
Yeah, I think going to the EMS weekend is when I started to believe there was going to be hope for our marriage. So I started working on me and my healing first and foremost. And I really think that's important because like I said early on, I realized the baggage I brought in. Now, I did not cause my husband to do these things, but there were things I needed to get healthy and I needed to heal. I needed to allow Jesus to heal. And that's when I began to kind of hope that there was. I still needed to see the changes in my husband and his heart. And I had a checkoff list when I started to see things. You see, his heart had become so hardened. He did not cry. Anger was really the only emotion I had ever seen. And even through all of this, I still wasn't seeing him cry. I began to pray Ezekiel 36:26, that God would soften his heart and give him a new heart. So I learned several prayers that I prayed all the time. And one of them was that I learned from doing Avenue. God, he's your mess. He's your son. There's nothing I can do to change him. I release him and he's yours. And that was simple, but huge for a codependent person. So there's little light bulbs, I would say, that went on all throughout this, but it wasn't until a year and a half after my husband started really doing all the things he needed to do to make me feel safe.
Did you guys make a decision to move back in together? And
October was EMS, and we're still in separate rooms. January, so now it's been a full year from when I discovered what was going on. We slowly did things. And my husband had an amazing counselor in Florida. Oh my goodness. It's so important for people to find the right therapist, godly therapists, therapists that know about sexual addiction, betrayal. So it wasn't until January that we were back together in the same room. And we lived with this family for 18 months. Then we found our own little place together until we moved up here to Wisconsin because we had a new grandbaby coming. So we moved from Florida, quit our jobs, just on faith, moved to Wisconsin. I just can't even begin to tell you, Meredith, the miracles that God has done in our life.
did you begin to see those changes? And what was it? I mean, especially to move to Wisconsin, by that point, had you felt like you had some confidence?
Yes. So I slowly started seeing these changes that I needed. He read a book called Worthy of Her Trust. There's things in there that they talk about getting an accountability partner. We set up all kinds of boundaries, and he really had no problem with them. We got covenant eyes on his computer, on his phone, on every device. He has a sexual addiction counselor that now is for this state, because, like the one in Florida couldn't see him up here. So he has one. He meets with him regularly. He has a local counselor, a face-to-face counselor. He meets with the pastor once a month at least, if not more. And now I can honestly say I trust him. He gives me no reason to not believe him.
One of the things that you described in him was that he wasn't emotional. The only emotion you saw was anger. Was there ever a point where that changed? And was that a marker?
Yes.
Was that a marker for you?
Oh, huge. Yes. So we moved to Wisconsin 2019, and that Easter, we're at the Good Friday service. They sang Amazing Grace, and he started to cry. I was like, oh, and I started laughing. I had this joy. I have goosebumps right now. I don't even know how to describe it. It wasn't laughing at him. It was, and then I started to bawl. I don't even know how to describe it. I was like, God, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was a huge checkoff for me. So tender. It's so different. It is so huge. It's been over 5.5 years now. And I'm telling you, I continue to see the healing in my husband's life. Yes. Huge checkoff for me.
So when you think about your relationship prior to this, and you think about your relationship with your husband today, how's your relationship different?
It's intimate, and I know it's growing, and it's precious. I would never have said those two words before. It's something that my husband never, ever did before. He will touch my hair and he'll say things like, I love your hair. Or he'll go, my gosh, you're beautiful. Now, I would have given anything for him to have done that all those years, but he just wasn't really in touch with either his emotions, or he felt awkward to say them, or it's just a new relationship that God's given us. It's tender. I don't know what else, it's intimate. We can share thoughts. He can share things with me that he never felt like he could share. I know it's just going to get better and better. He is becoming the man that I always desired. Yeah.
Similar question, just in terms of your relationship with God. I mean, you think about what your relationship or view of God was like before. You've gone through so much healing, and, what's different about your relationship or view of God today?
It's amazing. I cannot tell you how much I love God. It has drastically changed my view of who God is and how amazing he is. I feel like I had this relationship with him that was, he's God, or this view, I guess I should say, this view that he's God. And I believe him, and I believe God's word. But then I got angry, like, why would he allow all of this to happen? And now he allowed it to happen just to draw me close to him. One of my counselors, she said, I want you to journal and only write in black. And she said, then I want you to just ask Jesus, is there anything you want to say to me? And she said, and when you hear him, write it in red. It is something that I've learned to do. That is so amazing to hear Jesus speak to me. It has been such a huge part now of my life to sit still and say, Jesus, you have my full heart. You have all access to me. Is there anything you want to speak to me? I will tell you, for the first probably 2 years, all he said over and over is, Karen, I love you. Do you know how much I love you? Do you know how precious you are to me? Karen, you are the apple of my eye. It just over and over. And I finally, like, one day I go, God, Jesus, is there anything else you want to say to me besides that? He's like, no, baby girl, I want you to get it. I want you to know beyond anything how great my love is for you.
All those years, Karen hoped and prayed her husband would change, and he has. But she had no idea the transformation and healing that God wanted for her. Now she is passionate about sharing God's love and their story of healing. And she remains involved with the Affair Recovery Organization, where she leads support groups for women from all around the world. I asked Karen to share some of the resources that were helpful in their recovery. So she recommended Affair Recovery, and specifically their emergency marriage weekends, which are available in person or online. A book that was instrumental was The Healing Choice, How to Move Beyond Betrayal, as well as the support groups associated with that book. You can learn more at avenue.works. One of the resources that Robert recommended is Faithful and True. It's an organization for men dealing with sexual addiction. We have links to all of these resources in the show notes. Thank you so much to Karen for being willing to share her story. Hey, thanks also to the Unfolding team, Michael Shermack and Jason Rackow, our producer and network director. You can support great storytelling like this at myfaithpodcast.com. We'll be back next week with another page of The Unfolding.